Welcome to the Back in the Gap podcast. I am Ware, and I'm joined by my other co-host, Joey and Travis. And today we're talking about ghost stories.
Ghost stories.
Ooh.
But no, this is our 20th episode, and every 10 episodes, we decide we're just going to do a more laid-back story time. And today we're talking about ghost stories.
Yes. Do we all have a ghost story?
I think we all have a ghost story to share. Maybe not one that is personal, but at least one that is pertinent to our lives.
I know of 3.
Okay.
Dang.
Within one space.
See, that's the thing. I think that's kind of where we have to jump in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, to make this clear, like, do y'all actually believe in ghosts?
No. I don't believe that, like, when people die, they linger on earth as ghosts.
Yeah.
I think that Scripture is pretty clear that when you die, you're no longer on earth.
Yeah.
Do I believe in spiritual forces? Yes. I believe in angels. I believe in demons. I believe in Satan. I believe in God. But while the Holy Spirit was called the Holy Ghost in some older translations, the meaning of the word ghost there is not what like we think about when we think of a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I just want to make that clear before we move on. That we don't actually believe in ghosts.
But there are.
Yes.
Yeah. And we believe in spiritual forces, but not necessarily them, like flicking lights or knocking over surfaces.
I think all these stories that we're going to tell have nothing to do with actual like spirits, but they're funny.
Well, some of them are unexplainable, and we'll get to my story because I really, to this day, I don't know how to explain it, but we'll get there when we get there.
All right.
There are explanations out there. So to start us out, we have 3 different occurrences, ghostly encounters, if you will. Not actually, but within the same space, which is pretty crazy. A space that we've all become quite accustomed to over the years and that we've been in for a number of years. It was, can I say?
It was our student center.
Yeah, it was our student center. And it's pretty interesting. An area where the building was much older than our current building, although some experiences were not long before this building was built. But anyway, originally, the first person to have this ghostly encounter that we know of, there probably were others, is a former minister of our church that went to go retrieve a piece of baggage, if you will, from the space, and could swear that they heard someone down the hall. I don't remember, was it walking or just, I think it was just steps.
Yeah. So kind of like to describe the space, like the student center was like this big wide open room. Like when you walk up the stairs, just like this big wide open room.
Yeah.
And there's like a hallway at the end with classrooms to your left and right.
Yeah. Long, and it was a very narrow hallway.
Yes.
Too.
At the time, this was like a very long hallway. And it's late at night. You hear footsteps. You don't know what's happening.
Yeah, and not much natural light gets in that hallway at all.
Oh, no.
And the very end of the hallway is actually the darkest. I think it was at the time and still is, but yeah. And she went to go retrieve this baggage, if you will, and could have swore that she heard like steps down the hallway, and I think she asked like if anybody was there or anything. Didn't get a response, and I think she said she kept hearing the steps, and they started getting louder, and then. Of course, like any rational human being, became stricken with fear and immediately left after that. And there was no follow-up. That was the end.
No. And, like, this is someone that, like, we fully trust.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
This is not an embellisher at all.
No. Like, it's not like this was, someone just trying to mess with us and scare us. Like, she was a minister at the church who was just telling her experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And she liked to joke around, but when it came to topics like that, she doesn't joke around, stuff like that.
And so then, of course, another story happened with our, at the time, student minister, who, basically spent, probably half the week in that room,
Oh yeah,
right?
basically almost every day.
And so, he's kind of in there late at night.
Mm-hmm.
He's got headphones on because he's comfortable. I think he told us it was, past midnight.
Yeah, I think he said he was preparing for some event or something.
Yeah, it was maybe like a D-hour retreat that was
Yeah.
happening like the coming weekend. And he has his headphones on, and he hears whispers.
Mm-hmm.
Like he hears someone talk. He takes off his headphones, like, "Hello?" Nothing. Puts the headphones back on, and he hears somebody talking to him. He takes off the headphones. "Hello?" Nothing's there, right?
Mm-mm.
Except down in the hallway, what does he hear?
More whispers.
More whispers. And some footsteps, I believe he
Mm-hmm.
described in his. And so he was like, "You know what? We'll just wake up early tomorrow and finish up. I'm out of here."
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like any rational human being.
Right. Once again, this is someone we trust.
Oh yeah,
He was our student minister, and that is something that he would mess with us about,
but
Yeah.
it was
if we're being honest.
but it was strange the consistency.
And there was a certain conviction on his face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he has a certain tell when he's not being for real.
Yeah.
And that was not on his face at all. He seemed almost like scared, even just looking back and telling us about it.
And so this kind of all culminates where in your story,
Yeah.
also
for,
in the student center.
for our viewers, and you're thinking, man, 2 footstep stories. Well, get ready. Same space area at our church, in our student room. Footsteps again. And so this happened personally to me. This was just over, it was about nine years ago when this happened. And this was in between our youth minister stories. So the first story and the second story that Travis shared, my story happened in between theirs. Because the second story, that was after our student center, it got renovated,
Yeah.
and it was around that time. And so the story that happened to me, that this was a couple years before that. And so I was friends with people. Actually, another podcast host who's on this program is also a part of the story. Luke was also a part of the story.
That's right.
And so it was me, Luke, and 2 other guys who were super close to at that time, and we would always hang out every Friday. And obviously, we had great access to this building on Friday nights because we were entrusted with that, and so every Friday night we would come up here and we would play ping pong or basketball or just hang out. In general. Well, me and my other friend, we got up there earlier. We got there around like 6 o'clock, and Luke's brother would show up a little bit later on the specific night because they were doing some family stuff. And so it gets. I think if I remember correctly, they were supposed to arrive around like 8, and so me and our other friend, we were up there for about 2 hours, and it got to that time where we were expecting them to arrive. And there's 2 staircases that lead up to our youth room. And there's one so our main entrance is you are outside. You walk up steps. Our back entrance is whenever you are already inside the church, and there's a flat stairs that leads you to our back area of our student center.
Yeah, it leads you kind of to that back of the hallway.
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
talking about.
At the very end of this long, scary hallway, specifically, and we're in there, and we happened to get quiet at perfect timing, where we were both taking a pause, and we can hear footsteps specifically coming up that staircase. Because if it gets dead quiet, it's very easy to hear someone walking around. And so we could specifically hear like the footsteps ascending up that back staircase. Well, we thought it was Luke and Luke's brother, so we had a plan to scare them. So we dart across this hallway, and we're hiding behind this door. And once they got to our spot where we were, we would jump out and scare them. Well, I started thinking that as I'm hearing the footsteps get closer and closer, I noticed that it was only one set of footsteps and not two. And so that's when I was confused because I was like, okay, well, it should be two, not just one. Well, I didn't think much about it. I kid you not, the footsteps get to that spot where we were hiding, and we both jump out and nothing was there. And my friend, he was in front of me, and he does a double take of just looking up and down that hallway because it made zero sense. And he looks back to me for some form of confirmation that he's not crazy or something. And I'm just kind of standing there because I didn't know what to think. And here to give a frame of reference, I've been a member at this church for 18 years. I know every sound that youth room makes. I've never heard this specific sound before this instance and after this instance. I've never heard this specific sound. Like it legit sounded like footsteps. And so we're freaking out and we're clearing every room together. I mean, we're like hip to hip, just clearing every room, just trying to make sure that somebody was not in there with us. And we kind of sit back down where our ping pong table was, and we're kind of trying to contemplate what happened. And we hear banging at the downstairs door, trying to get in. And we're like, "What is happening?" And so we kind of like just like peek down the staircase, and we see Luke down there banging on this that glass door, just trying to say, "Hey, let me in." We let him in, and we're like, "Okay, were you just up here messing with us?" And he goes, "No, I wasn't up here. My brother, well, his brother dropped him off, and he starts circling around to throw something into our church dumpster." And so we go through the whole scenario with Luke, and Luke goes, "I honestly do not know what to tell you at all." And then eventually his brother walked up there, and we're like questioning both of them. We're like, we heard legit footsteps stop at this specific point where we were hiding to scare y'all, and they just weren't there when we like jumped out, and we didn't hear them run away or anything. It just stopped right there, and we were just kind of freaked out about that. And then lo and behold, a few weeks later, we're in just casual conversation, and that first story that Travis mentioned, that was the first time I heard that story. I'm like, okay, this isn't just like just things I'm just messing with my head. Something happened.
Something's afoot.
Something was strange. I can't explain it. I've never heard that noise, anything remotely close to that ever again, and I've spent many a time up there. So it's something to this day. It doesn't keep me up at night, but I literally can't explain it.
Yeah, it's I've always thought about that because I've never had a story personally like that, but these are 3 stories from people that I trust that have basically said like a very similar thing happened, where they either hear whispers or they hear footsteps,
or both.
Or both, right?
Well, and I don't think I've shared this with y'all. I've actually heard the whispers before.
No.
I'm dead serious. I've never mentioned this to nobody.
When was this?
This was a few months ago.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not making this just for pure content. I'm dead serious. Well, here's the thing. I forgot. I've never heard the whisper part of that story.
Yeah.
So whenever I heard that story, I always heard that it was just footsteps. Tonight is literally the first time I've heard like the whispers part, and it made me think, oh, I think I've actually experienced that. Now I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but basically what happened is that my drum kit is actually inside our student center, and whenever I need to practice or play, I try to be up here earlier if I can. But I was busy this one specific night, and it was around 9 o'clock. I was like, well, I really need to practice and be prepared for this thing that I was playing in. And so I get let in the church, and I go up there, and I put on my headphones. I'm practicing these songs. I get into the second song, and halfway through, the best way I can describe it, it sounds like someone was in that room trying to talk to me, but because I'm listening to music, it just sounds all just like muffled and all that. And so I take off my headphones. There's nothing there. And so I'm like, okay. So I put them back in, and it literally sounds like someone's like legit talking to me. Now I couldn't make out specific words because it just sounded all just muffled and everything.
Sure, yeah.
But I did that a total of 3 times, just taking off my headphones. And after the 3rd time, I was up there for literally about 10 minutes, and I put down those headphones and I walked out. I cannot handle it at all, and I've chalked that up to, okay, well, it was just probably my mind messing with me. But after the whisper story, I wonder if there's a connection now.
There is
There's
something.
yeah.
Something is afoot. I feel like realistically, that's just like our minds messing with us, right?
Yeah.
Because like I sometimes like to go on walks very late at night, and I cannot listen to music if it's dark outside.
Oh, for sure.
I start hearing things. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I know for me, one thing that like happens most often for me is like whenever I'm in usually like a dark hallway or something, what I'll normally do is if I'm walking down it long enough and I keep thinking about like, oh, I don't really like this, it's creepy or something, I'll start hearing footsteps like behind me or something like that.
Yeah.
Or I'll start like, you know that feeling you get when you feel like you can feel something behind you?
Yeah. Yes.
And that happens so often.
Okay. So, we've talked about like some ghost stories up here, specifically in our student center. But another one that affected myself and Travis, we used to work at a fish store together. Mm-hmm. Our co-host Josh, also, he still works there. And it was a pretty, typical job, nothing too spooky or mysterious happening, right?
What you would expect of like a small business.
Yeah, it was a small, family-owned business.
Nothing's really going to be going around that you're unaware of.
Yeah. And so I had bought a fish, right? And I'd marked my name beside the fish. And essentially what happened was we work on Monday, the fish are there. We have another tank, the hospital tank that we called it, where we would store other people's fish. We come in the next Tuesday. My fish is missing. All the fish in the hospital tank are missing. There was a customer who had bought a fish. It's missing. Straight up, they're all gone.
Dang.
Yeah, and
without anything.
We still have no idea. Also, 2 other tangs were missing that weren't even in the hospital area.
Yeah, so
expensive tanks.
Like expensive fish. And this place has security cameras. This place has a security, system.
But guess what?
So we go check it out. Nothing.
Wait, y'all watch like the actual camera footage?
We did. Guess what? So our boss goes to check the footage. It got corrupted.
Dang.
The one time that we need to check the security footage, it's corrupted. Inaccessible.
I don't think it... Anyway, he hadn't needed to check the security footage in a while. And I think... But it was convenient because if you walk into his office, he's always got it on the other monitor.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that the fish store's haunted, because it's not.
No.
But there were a couple of times, deep into the winter, where I'd be locking up the shop by myself.
It's dark.
And we have this warehouse in the back. It's not insulated, right? Mm-hmm. And so you got to lock up the back. And you just start hearing all the noises of nature in complete and utter darkness.
With a nice reverb because it's metal.
A little spooky.
Yeah. I'll say, the thing about that story is that, the cameras were corrupted, but also, like, absolutely no one had any explanations for it. I don't even think that the code was used that night.
No,
And also, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, nobody who has the ability to corrupt security cameras and do this this heist or something, no one's going to be interested in that on a small business.
No. And especially because if you're going to go rob a small business, you're going to go take something of value, like the money from the register, or like the products, like the dry goods. No, it was literally everything was in its place except a bunch of fish were missing.
Yeah.
Like someone would have had to, if someone would have
what a fiend is going to get those fish.
Someone would have had to go in and spend like an hour and a half bagging up these fish correctly, putting them all in there and then filling back up the tanks, but they're just gone.
I'm just imagining,
in the middle of the night.
I'm just imagining if this security footage just never, if it actually worked, we're going back there and watching just some guy just transporting fish from a giant bucket. He's going, I gotta get my fish.
But no, that was just the weirdest thing that we never were able to explain.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So how upset was y'all's boss?
Honestly, I was more upset because I had paid for a fish and then it was just gone.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't upset. He was just really confused, and he was a little upset because he had to buy another fish for the other customer who had bought one.
Yeah.
The dude's fish that was in the hospital, it's whatever. They were in the hospital. They were sick.
It was. But he was more just confused and tried to
perturbed.
And tried his best to make sure that never happens again.
Yeah. Is there
we
possible?
all have. He gave us all individual number codes, so he knows exactly who walks in and stuff like that.
And he's got tight bungee cords on all the doors in the back.
Yeah.
But the thing was, if someone opens the door, it sends an alert.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
no alerts for me.
No alerts.
Is there possible there's a window open or something?
None of the windows open. You'd have to shatter a window to get in.
Gotcha.
The only explanation is
a ghost.
A ghost, yeah.
The only realistic explanation is that I don't even think any of the current employees at the time would have done it, but a former employee who knew the code walks in, puts the code in, and does all of it and leaves and puts the code back in.
That'd really be it.
But like I said, I'm pretty sure, when the code is used, after business hours, he gets an alert, and he didn't get an alert.
Yeah.
And the cameras were corrupted.
Shenanigans. Ghostly shenanigans.
Ghostly.
The only creepy thing that ever happened on a late night walk was it was me and our other podcast host Luke and his brother, and we're walking, and we had this thing where on Friday nights we would hang out till midnight, and then it's hey, let's go for a walk, and we walked for 2 hours. Just up and down their street where they lived, and there was, which it wasn't like a cul-de-sac. I mean, it's just this long continuing street, and we would pick a destination to stop, and then we would just start making the long walk back to their house. And there was one time, excuse me, a van pulled down the road. We saw it driving. There's no house or anything there, and it just pulled off onto the side with its headlights just still beaming down, just sitting there. And we're kind of oh, we don't like this. And we started walking back, and then the van got back on the road and started driving towards us. And we kind of went from a walk to a slow jog to we started full on just sprinting. Man. And we're what is going on? And we kind of get off the road at this point, and then turns out it was just some guy, and he had to check his phone or something like that. And the guy just drove on past,
Yeah, I have because there was this one time that I was walking alone. And the only thing I had on my person was a little pocket knife, which was not going to do anything, right?
Yeah.
It's probably 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And this was kind of a new neighborhood development where there's only the 3-4 houses in there, and so it's mostly open, right? And I'm just walking down, and this car, it doesn't ever get close to me, but like it just keeps making every loop to make sure that it always has me in its vision, right?
Yeah.
And so then I turn back, and like I'm kind of trapped. I don't know what to do. And it got to this stoplight that I was coming up to, right? And it just never goes. Like it's waiting for me to get up to it. So I turn around, and then it finally pulls and pulls, and then I start going the other way, and I eventually I hide behind a fence until it went away, and that just really spooked me. I'm sure they were just lost and wanted to ask for directions. But don't ask some guy walking by himself for directions like 11 o'clock. Like, just Google it. Leave me be.
Yeah.
Because I was like, they're going to, like, pull out the blicky. It's going to be over.
Yeah, also, if you're going to do it, like, go straight to him.
Yes.
And slowly roll down the window and stick your head out and be like, hey, can I ask you your directions?
They were literally following me, like, just ever so slightly behind. They wouldn't pull up. And then they make the circle and they wait at the stop sign for me. And then I'm like, well, I'm turning around here.
I can see you.
Like, dude, I'm walking up. I'm like, just ask me the question. I'm right here.
Yeah.
That's mad suspicious.
It really freaked me out.
Yeah. I will say, for that story I just shared, both Luke and his brother were prepared. They were prepared in case something ever went down on these long walks, as they should.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, I think, which, I mean, because I can still remember that day. I wasn't, like, legitimately scared, but it was more of like, okay, I have to, like, prepare myself just in case if something does go down.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, you're acting sus. I don't know what you're about to do.
Yeah. Whenever we straight up just, like, ran off that road and we're kind of, like it wasn't a ditch, but like when you're on those roads, it kind of like slides down a little bit. And we're kind of in that area. We kind of like look behind as he's like right there to our hips, and we just kind of, just watch as he goes by. Yep. It was some guy on his phone. He drove by. He just kept on going.
Oh
Oh goodness.
Ooh. Well, this isn't really. Anyway. Us and our other co-host Luke were up here one time late at night, and
we
didn't hear anything distinctive, but we were hearing like slight noises a lot, and he had this great idea because we had actually been discussing these like noises and all these stories that night, and he had this great idea of he's like we were downstairs in the worship area, or the older worship area, and he was like, he was like, man, let me go, y'all go upstairs, y'all go to the student center, and I'll sit here and I'll play the organ.
Yeah, let me play this like nearly 70-year-old organ for y'all.
Yeah. And see if y'all can hear it. And so we go up there, make sure all the lights are off so we get the right ambiance and everything, and we just hear this like just like, but like you can feel it vibrating the floor a little bit.
That was the weird part to me, because if we were talking at all, you couldn't actually hear it, but you were always aware of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't until you're completely silent you're able to make out the notes.
Oh my gosh. And that same night we also went up to these, like, you have to go up the stairs to these dressing rooms where you would get dressed before you go into baptism.
Oh, yeah.
And there were these it was a tight staircase, very, very small space, and talk about creepy. It had this one window that was like super fogged up. And so when the baptistry, like you don't leave water in it, you empty it out. And so you just get this like deep pit of just like these tiny green tiles. Yeah. And it just looks, you can tell it's been wet. And
it was either that night or another night there was water in there.
Oh yeah, that was a separate night.
Oh yeah, okay. I stepped in there on pure accident because we were trying to go across. So the way it's set up is you have the baptismal area and it's in the center, and then there's the women's and men's side of where they would get dressed and everything. Well, we were trying to get from point A to point B. And I'm like, well, instead of like walking down these stairs and circling all this way around, in darkness, it looked empty.
Yeah.
And so I full on just plunge in there and I get wet.
Which was
split was
probably freaked you out a little bit. Turns out there was a leak, and it was good that you stepped in there because they were able to fix that.
Yeah.
But no, you can continue with yours.
On that same night, of course, we're in a nice spooky mood, and so he's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna go down there, or we should go out. Someone should stay up here and press their hand up against a window because it was this foggy window."
Yep.
And he's like, and the rest of us go outside and see if we can see it. And dude, I think we took turns, but I remember, I don't know if it was me or somebody. I think it was me. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. If I'm gonna stay in here in this dark, creepy space, somebody's staying with me.
Yeah.
So we paired up. I think if it was only 3 of us, he went by himself. But if it was 4 of us, then we paired off in twos and took turns.
But it was the same thing with the organ. Where like when you look in that window, you can't tell that anything's off.
No.
Until you really
Focus.
squint, you really look close, and you can just barely make it out, which, in my opinion, makes that creepier.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that actually reminded me, talking about that like baptistry space, that reminded me of when I was like, I don't know, it had to be either early middle school age or late elementary, and I was messing around playing with some friends. You know, we're playing tag in the space, and you know everything. Ultimate tag space, that whole building, and we're running around and having fun, and so I go somewhere to hide.
Someone just pulled in the church driveway.
Backing up into the church.
They look like they're maybe turning around.
Yeah, the other turning around.
Okay, that just kind of sussed me out.
Especially with our ambiance and stories right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were running around playing in that space, and eventually I go to hide on the women's baptistry staircase. Dude, the women's baptistry is even darker than the men's because it doesn't get direct sunlight. And I was sitting there hiding, and like behind me I can hear like not whispers, but just like a constant. And there's not supposed to be any airflow. Anyway, I ran as far as I ran as fast as I could out of there. I got tagged. I told the other kids about it, and they couldn't even hear it. They couldn't hear anything. They were telling me I was crazy. But
Which, at this point, you're still somewhat new to the hearing aids, right?
oh yeah, no.
So you have just like this insane level of hearing that you've never had before.
It like
So you're hearing things that most people tune out.
Yeah, it brings everything up to the level where I can hear conversation.
Yeah.
But it also makes it to where extremely low pitches and extremely high pitches I can hear extremely well. Those are those are the reasons I would have to turn them down or not wear them at all. Is if like extremely dynamic volume, and it's possible it was an extremely or like a higher pitch or a lower pitch, but it sounded like higher pitch.
Yeah.
Sound that I could hear, and it was just like. It was constant, but also inconsistent at the same time.
Well, this has been the Back in the Gap podcast Ghost Stories episode. Thank you all for watching, and we'll be back next week with some more normal content.
Yeah.
Ooh.